joke, I've been a money maker. I've been a record breaker, taking credit as an educator. I've been known to spit the flows and make it shaky, shaky thing. Popping, locking, stopping, let it hang. Watch us as we drop this hip hop, it's like it stings. We make the whole room drop and everybody sing. We want the funk. We gotta have that funk. We kick it old school, we think we're so cool. We take it back to the past, we gonna act a fool. Up jumps the middle finger, make.
Ho, 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 and welcome to Sports Buzz, the Fanatical View. I am your host, Scott.D. Lewis, here in studio, Comcast Cable Channel 23, downtown Danbury, Connecticut, on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, December 22nd, just 3 days away from Christmas. And we are in the Christmas spirit, as you can see here, ready to give you our year in review show. Usually at this time, we would be saying hello to my right-hand man, Mr. Bob Broad Jr. We do have him here in studio today, but a little scheduling snafu, maybe the holiday madness caught up to our usual director, Mr. Mike Toohey, and his show Expose Cinema, but he's flaked on us like a snowflake. He's not here. Didn't show up, so Bob is running the controls in the director's chair out of the studio, so we won't be able to hear him, although we might hear him chime in over the PA here in the studio, perhaps throughout the show. We'll see. But Bob is here, and of course, you know, his show Spotlight On airs on, Tuesday nights at 9, Wednesdays at noon. And our boy Mike Toohey, his show Expose Cinema, Fridays at 9 and Wednesdays at 1. He's still working on his Christmas show, so we're not quite sure, as we see Bob there, ready for Christmas, hanging out with Santa. And, you know, Mike will get his Christmas show to you as well. But we are ready to do our year in review. And, of course, before we get into all the sporting news of the year, the wide, wide world of sports review, we must mention what the biggest event of the year was. Oh, and there it is, the wedding of the year. Bob and Jolene, the happy couple right there, got married this earlier this year, 7 months ago, I believe. They just celebrated their 7-month anniversary. Great day that was, and they looked great. We all had a good time. May 16th. What was the date? May 16th. There you go. So it was a great day. That was the highlight of the year, really, for everybody down here. We will also say a little mention of our usual crew members who can't be here at this different time slot we got going. Mike Jet Met McFadden, he is not here, but he does a great job for us. Strange Man with all his stats of the week, aka Peter Green, he is not here as well. Connor and Jenna Faco, Connor the production assistant extraordinaire, also unable to attend today. So we are the skeleton crew, but we want to thank them all for everything they do for us throughout the year, all the help they have given us. Of course, Dave King and Candian Timnev as well for the help they give us. Dave, I'm sure, in there, making sure Bob gets this show off and running properly today, helping out. So we thank them and the fans. Where would we be without the fans? Without you, we got nothing. So the 2, 3, maybe 5 of you out there that tune in on a regular basis, some of you online, checking us out through Facebook, wherever it is, we're just happy you're here with us. So, all right, let's get this thing rolling. I've babbled long enough. We got to go to this year in review. We're going to do it in chronological order, not necessarily the biggest stories, but how they happened over the course of the year. So that means we are starting with the college football first ever playoff championship series. And there it was, you see right there, Ohio State was straight up killing it in this first ever playoff as they were down to their third quarterback of the year. Injuries plagued them, and it did not stop them at all. Of course, you know, we've had the controversy over the years with the BCS. Do the right teams make it into the playoff or into the championship game? And even though they did have a playoff this past year with 4 teams, there still was controversy. Ohio State was out of the top 4 all year long, yet somehow magically in that final poll they squeaked in, and then they steamrolled everybody, culminating in the championship with a 42-20 beatdown of Oregon, the not-so-mighty Ducks, in that championship. 5th title for the Buckeyes, and Urban Meyer gets his second title for a second team. Remember, he coached up the Florida Gators previously to a championship. So yes, it was Ezekiel who was most notably killing it for those Ohio State Buckeyes as they got it done in that championship. This year we're getting ready for the second installment of the college football playoff. Clemson versus Oklahoma, Michigan State versus Bama. Quick note, I spoke to my dad, the big Clemson fan. He gave me this little tidbit. Oklahoma could be looking for revenge, as it was Clemson who pounded them big time in a bowl game last year with their backup quarterback. This year Clemson's at full strength, and we know they're the #1 team. Oklahoma, #4. So we'll see how that plays out in the playoffs this year. But that was what started the season off last year, and when that college football playoff was unfolding, the NFL playoffs were unfolding, and the story of the year started to unfold during those playoffs before we get to the moment of the NFL Super Bowl. But the Deflategate saga, that completely erroneous, fake, bogus story that has plagued us all year long, the bane of America's existence, that's what started to unfold during that time as the Patriots pounded the AFC, most notably the Indianapolis Colts, on their way to the Super Bowl. And then there was the play of the year, really, in my opinion. Butler, the Cinderella story, out of nowhere, undrafted, free agent, D3 player, not on anybody's radar, barely played throughout the regular year, kept himself ready. They give him his chance in the Super Bowl. He comes up with the interception at the end of the game to win it for the Patriots, 28-24 over the Seattle Seahawks. And that was just a great moment. Seahawks obviously were looking to go back-to-back. That didn't happen. Patriots got their 4th Super Bowl title. They had those couple struggles, most recently against two Bob's G-men in their last 2 attempts, but they moved on to win this one and get that 4th title, that elusive 4th title. Remember, they had 3 in 4 years early on Tom Brady's career, and he gets his 4th there. He joins Terry Bradshaw, Joe Montana as 3-time MVPs and 4-time Super Bowl champions quarterback-wise. Belichick tied Noel for 4 titles as coaches, and also was a little bit of redemption, if you remember, in 2007 when the Patriots were undefeated looking to get that 4th title then against the Giants. It was redemption in the desert because that's where that game was played, and the mirage took place when Tyree caught the ball off his head. It looked like the Seahawks were going to have that kind of moment when they had that juggling catch down by the goal line that set up the Butler interception, and Patriots fans were left to wonder if it was going to be some ghost rising up. But no, it was Butler who rose up, made the interception, and the Patriots said, deflate this. Take your deflated footballs and you can stick them you know where, because we are the Super Bowl champions once again. And they got it done with a great comeback. 10-point comeback in the 4th quarter, down 10, which is the largest comeback in Super Bowl history in a 4th quarter, as Brady rallied them for 14 points against that vaunted Legion of Boom defense. And the Patriots were on point all the way, coming from behind in that 4th quarter to get that title that they had been really searching for 10, 11 years at that point since their last one. Now the Patriots, as we wind down in the regular season here, will be in the playoffs again. They're a little banged up this year. Will they be able to defend that title? We're not too sure about that. We'll have to see how that plays out. Could they get another back-to-back Super Bowl victory like they did in 03 and 04? That's what they'll be trying to do. They'll have to do it maybe against a historical team like they were in 2007. The Carolina Panthers moved to 14-0. What does Bob have to say about Odell Beckham's performance in that game this past weekend, which he is now suspended coming out of that game for his just ridiculous behavior in the loss to the Panthers?
I am ashamed.
Bob Broad comes over the loudspeaker there saying he is ashamed. As a Giant fan, he is ashamed. And really, that was a bad spot to put Coach Coughlin in. Ever the disciplinarian, but he did not bench him. The refs did not kick him out of the game. That would have solved everybody's problems. but unbelievable. He got crazy in that game. He did get the suspension. Giants' playoff hopes are on life support. They're going to have to do it without their superstar wide receiver, who is out for that marquee matchup Sunday night against the Vikings this coming Sunday, Christmas weekend. So, that is what's going on currently in the NFL, but last year, that was the second story of the year that unfolded for us, the Super Bowl victory by those Patriots, 28-24 over the Seahawks. All right, the third story, and I'll mention this, we don't have any photos, but just a quick mention before we get to Daytona as Bob sneaks in a little, jumps ahead of his game there, or maybe I got him thrown off. But anyways, Newtown locally ended New Milford's 88-match straight wrestling winning streak, 11-year unbeaten run by New Milford in wrestling locally in the SWC and really statewide. New Milford had that unbelievable run where they just dominated everybody in sight for 11 years, and Newtown ended that run and then went on to win the SWC and a state title as well. So that was a nice little thing to mention. I think I'll mention while we're talking locally, just recently in a great state championship final that pitted two SWC teams, so we stayed local. New Fairfield had the surprising run to the title, won the SWC championship, but it was Brookfield winning back-to-back state titles, knocking them off in the state championship game. So hats off to Brookfield getting their second in a row, but New Fairfield, really unbelievable season they had. They knocked off undefeated Newtown on their way to the SWC title, but came up short in the championship against Brookfield. All right, we saw that Daytona picture getting in there, so we move on. And that was the next big thing on the professional circuit, the Middletown Kid. And yes, we know we have fans up there in Middletown checking us out online through that Facebook page. They check in, they know what's going on with Joey Logano, the Middletown Kid, first ever Connecticut native to win the Daytona 500. He did it early on in the year. He did get sidetracked from winning the chase for the championship in NASCAR later in the year, but he did win basically their Super Bowl as they start the year with their biggest event, and he did it, getting it done. Second youngest driver ever to win the Daytona 500 at the age of 24. Just saying, not too bad by that Joey Logano, the Middletown Kid, coming straight out of Connecticut, getting it done down there in Florida. Unfortunately, we mentioned, he was taken out quite literally in a cheap move where he was leading the Chase Points race late in the season, but a car wreck knocked him out of it, and he was not able to recover down the stretch, so he did not get the championship, but he'll always be able to say he was a Daytona 500 winner, and he's pretty well suited to do well down the stretch, or not down the stretch, but just continuing on his career. He's still very young. Obviously, he was in position to win the championship this year. I'm sure he'll recover from that wreck he had late in the season, and he'll move on and maybe give Middletown another Daytona 500 winner, or maybe just a NASCAR champion. So we will keep our eye on Joey Logano and follow his race for glory coming up in the coming years to come. All right, so now we move on to a little college basketball, and this is where we're not so excited, because you all know around here we hate the Duke Blue Devils. We don't make any secret of that. We say it plain and simple. We hate the Dukies. And guess who won the national championship last year? And how did they do it? Well, let's see. Maybe the refs got involved, and maybe they also got that soft landing in the weak conference, week 4, one of the 4 brackets out west. Didn't have to face any of the tough teams. Meanwhile, Wisconsin, who had the best team, basically second best team in the nation, they got stuck in the tough side of the draw. They had to take out the 38-0 Kentucky Wildcats after having to take out Arizona, another Wildcat team, on their way to that Final Four championship game against Duke. And Duke was, of course, playing cream puffs like, St. Mary's and Gonzaga, and a Michigan State team who did not deserve to be in the tournament this year. They only got in because their coach's name is Tom Izzo, and because they wear that green jersey with the Michigan Spartan on it, and they got the benefit of the doubt to get in, but they were not one of the better teams this year. And Duke got a free pass, walked all the way through to the Final Four. They were more rested. And then when they were losing, down by 9, I believe it was, under 10 minutes to go in this game, the refs took over, and gave them the chance to win the victory. How on earth Duke would not end up in the bonus, let alone double bonus, in the second half of this game? Wisconsin didn't even get to the free throw line on any bonus opportunities in the second half is beyond me. I would like to say it was more like Wisconsin who was going ham in this game, hard as a you-know-what. We're just talking about basketball here, but it was Duke who cuts down the nets. Coach K and the Dukies get their 5th ever championship. You know, I would say hats off, but we know how it goes with them. They get it done. You know, whatever. Maybe it was more the Lady Huskies who were going ham, and we can certainly pride ourselves in talking about Connecticut women's basketball getting their 10th title in 20 years as Gino Auriemma ties John Wooden. Pretty good company there, as he is the man when it comes to the Wizard of Westwood with his incredible run to championships back in the late 60s, early 70s with UCLA. So it was the Lady Huskies who got to cut down the net with their 63-53 victory over Notre Dame. They most certainly were going ham on their way to another undefeated season and another title. 10th title in 20 years. Unbelievable run by the Lady Huskies, who are off again to a great start. College basketball so far this year, not too many big surprises yet. We'll see how that all plays out. UConn men back in the top 25. You know, we'll see how they do. All right, we're going to keep going on, and we're going to move to Fight Night, which was more like Dud Night, because it was certainly not a great showing by Pacquiao, Mayweather, the fight of the century that we all waited way too many years for, and because it came so later than when it should have, did not turn into a very good night. For reals, I'm just saying, come on. Mayweather danced around, didn't get anything done. Pacquiao was injured. He couldn't put any pressure on him. It was a dud. It did cap off a pretty good Cinco de Mayo party I was having that day, though, so I will always remember that night as a good time. Some late night shenanigans went on that day. A certainly memorable evening had by all. But the fight itself, not so good. I don't know. Hopefully they will not do a rematch, because I don't think anybody needs to pay $100 to see that happen once again. Earlier in that day, however, something more historical and certainly worth our time began at the Kentucky Derby, which was also part of that great little party we had that day. American Pharoah began his run for the Triple Crown, first ever Triple Crown in 37 years. 1978 was the last time America got to see it, and it was American Pharoah breaking the drought for horse racing after Affirm did it in 78. And he became the 13th horse to get that done, as he was all about it, all horse racing season long, getting it done at the Kentucky Derby. And if you remember, that race was highly contested, very close race that he had to pull out a close one. And then when he went to the Preakness in the rain, he pulled away in the slop. And then at the Belmont, down the stretch he came, coming around the turn, unbelievable finish. He pulled away from the pack and got it done. And it was just a great finish for American Pharoah in the Triple Crown. And he was certainly, as I said, all about it, as our boy, the director there, gets hung up on that nice photo. What happened to the other photos, Bob? You were doing such a good job. Where's the slop? He's a mudda. His mother was a mudda. No photos of the rain? All right, whatever, Bob. We'll get to that. And also, it is worth noting that he did also get the Grand Slam, first horse to do that, to win the Triple Crown and then continue to race. And there we see the mud shots. There you go, Bob, getting them done. All right, and Belmont as well, as you can see the fans in the background just going crazy. That was a moment, if you were watching at home or if you were there, when he came around that turn and you could see clearly he was going to get it done. I think the nation who was watching, everybody wherever they were, just stood up and started applauding. It was just a great moment, and it was a great thing by American Pharoah to get it done. And as I mentioned, he got that 4th race as he finished the season a winner. All right, we got about 10 minutes left, so we got to keep this thing moving. Let's get to the NBA action, because it is fantastic. And it was 1975 all over, as the Golden State Warriors were turned up for what? for a championship as they came out to play. Warriors come out to play against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Bron, Pawn James, once again going down to defeat in the NBA Finals. Unbelievable. Bron falling down once again. He is now 2-4 in the final. How many times do we have to see this guy lose in the finals, but yet everybody still says he's so great? Why does his team keep losing? Unreal. Warriors, they came out to play, and they got it done 4-2 in the finals over Bron, Pawn James, and Steph Curry, who is the man right now, no doubt about that. And the Warriors shocking everybody by coming out to defend their title this year with a 24-0 record to start the season. They finally did lose only once, though, so far. I believe they're now at 26-1, chasing Michael Jordan and Chicago Bulls' all-time record of 72 victories on a season. We will see if they can stay turned up and get that done this year. But they are off to a great start. Unbelievable. Not usually you see an NBA team come out and defend their title with a chip on their shoulder, but because of guys like Doc Rivers out there in the Clipper land saying that they were lucky to win it, maybe that gave them a little extra fuel because they've certainly been playing out of their minds to start the season. While that was finishing up, the NHL Stanley Cups were also finishing up. I know Bob was looking to see his Rangers get back to the finals, but the Tampa Bay Mighty Ning, the Lightning, knocked them off, but they couldn't knock off the Chicago Blackhawks, who got their third cup in 6 years. So Bob was left feeling awfully salty when his Rangers didn't get it done there, getting back to a back-to-back Stanley Cup final. Remember, they lost the year before to Connecticut native Jonathan Quick and the LA Kings. But it was the Lightning, the Mighty Ning, getting through. But it was the Blackhawks, as I mentioned. Third Stanley Cup final in 6 years. It's pretty close to what you might call a dynasty in the NHL. Pretty good by them. Blackhawks clearly a dominating team. Speaking of dominating, women's soccer team, national team, they had been looking for that elusive World Cup title since, 2001. You think of the women's soccer team and you think of domination, but lately they've been more like these bobbleheads, shaking their heads, not being able to get it done. But they were able to get it done this year in the World Cup. Carly Lloyd, hat trick, unbelievable performance. Just out of her mind in the highest rated soccer game on American soil, most watched ever soccer game. The last time there was the highest rated soccer game was not a men's game. It was the women winning in 2001, I believe, there, or maybe it was the 99 match when Brandy Chastain, of course, famously ripped off her jersey as she kicked home the game-winning penalty kick to give USA the World Cup then. But this time around, 5-2 redemption. Another redeeming story here as they knocked off Japan 5-2 in the final. Remember, Japan beat them in the last one, 2011, so they did get it done. And remember, Abby Wambach, one of the all-time greats, still, I think Mia Hamm is the all-time greatest women's soccer player ever, but Abby Wambach retired just this past week as the all-time goal-scoring leader. And so she did get it to go out finally because she had not won the World Cup before. She finally got that World Cup. Ever elusive, so they got it done. Then, speaking of other things going on in the world of sports, as we get coming down the stretch here towards the end, the scuttlebutt around the other sports, two things, was Grand Slams. First, was it going to be Jordan Spieth in the golf world getting it done? As he won the U.S. Open and the Masters to start the season, and he went out to the British Open, and he put up quite the performance, rallying from being down early and putting himself one stroke away from being in the playoff and giving himself a chance for the third of the four legs of the Grand Slam. But he was not able to get that done, but still proved himself a champion and clearly the player of the year this year, joining rare company by winning the U.S. Open and the Masters. Jordan Spieth, a season for the ages, really. But the big-time scuttlebutt when it came to Grand Slams was Serena Williams, looking to become the first woman player to get it done since Steffi Graf. And she had it on her racket in the semifinal at the U.S. Open, dominating. Or was she? We pointed it out throughout her Grand Slam run, she was going 3 sets quite often. So even though she was winning, she was not dominating, and an Italian unknown took her out. Actually, it wasn't the Italian. The Italian ended up winning the U.S. Open, but a little-known player knocked her out at the U.S. Open on her home court, and she did not get the Grand Slam. So she did obviously have a great season, but she couldn't get it done when it came to that final leg trying to make it happen. All right, we will make mention real quick because we're almost out of time and we got to get to the story that Bob doesn't want me to get to. But I will mention real quick, Tour de France, Great Britain, Chris Froome, second Tour de France in his turning out to be a pretty good career. He did win it in 2012, and he said howdy back there in the Alps and got it done once again. Tour de France, Chris Froome getting it done for the second time. All right, now Bob probably is not going to put these pictures up of the final big story of the year. Maybe he will. Oh, he's going to be a good sport because, you know, his Mets were involved. They were the Amazins, or were they almost amazing this year? It was almost amazing. Great second half run. Really a magical ride for New York Mets Met fans and the Mets themselves. But it was the Royals in their royal blue, the comeback kids who went back to this World Series for the second time in 2 years. And this time they were not to be denied as they got it done. And it was the first time for the Royals winning it since the glory days of George Brett in 1985. And they got it done. But the Mets obviously had a great season and a great playoff run, knocking off the Dodgers in a great 5-game series and then sweeping the Cubbies in a real classic battle for them. So the Mets got a lot to look forward to coming down into the new year. We'll see how things shake up for them. It was a great run, but they could not get past the Kansas City Royals, who won the World Series. You know, it could have been worse, Bob. You could have been like my Boston Red Sox, or should I say the Boston blah, blah, blahs with the team of Joe Schmoes who got up to that ridiculous start and were nowhere near the playoff picture, although they did finish strong with the young kids in the lineup down the stretch. So we do have something possibly to look forward to, not to mention some of the offseason signings, starting pitching and closer, to name a few. All right, we are down to the final minute. Maybe we got those pictures. There they are of Jenna at the Nutcracker last weekend, looking good. Great performance by her. What a way to wish everybody a Merry Christmas by looking at these lovely photos. So we do hope everybody had a great year. We're glad everybody tuned in to our show this season. We do appreciate it. We'll be back after the new year, and we will wish you all a Merry Christmas.
Have a good holiday.
All right, Bob, thanks for everything you do. The show wouldn't happen without my right-hand man. But again, Merry Christmas to everybody. We'll see you after the new year. Maybe we'll just stay right here for a few more minutes. Happy New Year? Am I supposed to be singing now? A Day in the Manger? Is that the song? I can hear it. All right.